Metroid Prime 4 might just be the most divisive game on the Switch 2 so far. And that sucks, as it's been almost 20 years since the release of Prime 3. Now, I've just recently finished the game myself, and a lot of feelings have come up for me. As a long-time Metroid fan, I guess I kinda just wanna go over my feelings on the game and the current situation it's in. Even as someone who really enjoys the game, I have my fair share of issues, believe me. But before the long list of negative stuff, let me actually tell you about some of the stuff that the game does right. Starting with the actual way you control the game, because believe it or not, the game supports a crap ton of different controlling styles, starting with the most normal twin-stick style as what might just fit most of you people. Then you have motion controls, which kinda imitates the Prime 3 and / Wii movement, and then you got the fancy new mouse mode thing that I find works really well. Now for me, I am a guy who really enjoyed the Nintendo Wii and the other Prime games, so I chose to go with the motion control aiming. And if there's anything I'm gonna nitpick here is that it still has the same fault as the Prime 1 remaster, which is that I have to recalibrate the gyro controls pretty much over and over. I want a sensor, but you know, you can't have everything, can you? Regarding movement, just about everything in this game feels perfect. Samus has never moved this smoothly. You've never had this kind of physics, this level of detail in which Samus interacts with the world. You know, all of that extends into the way combat works, the way puzzles work, the way the camera moves. It's all really cinematic stuff, and it helps immerse me a lot more than I've ever felt in the other Prime games, which is really saying something. Now, the bosses as well, I would just want to highlight it right away. Super challenging, but really fun. They kind of push this kind of gameplay loop that you have with the Prime games a lot more than what was seen in any of the other games. You know, a lot of the especially the older Prime 1 boss fights were really simplistic, in which just shoot specific points, blah 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 blah. But going from that all the way to here, the bosses are a real challenge now. They're dynamic in a way that really couldn't be done before. And I fucking love it, man. One of the things that you definitely can't avoid when it comes to talking about Prime 4, especially when about the good parts, are the graphics. This game is a technical marvel. Have you seen this? Honestly. The first time I walked into Fury Green, I just had to stop. I had to look. I even made a tweet about that. That was breathtaking for me, you know. I've played many games on the computer and on other consoles that obviously look really good. But for something like Nintendo-related consoles, seeing something so realistic, immersive, actually just breathtaking, it was so new. It was really impactful. Though my favorite area in the game probably has to be an area called Vault Forge. It's like this huge mechanical fortress. It's storming everywhere. There's psychic bots everywhere, like machines. You get a bike here. What? A bike? Okay, whatever. That place, it was really cool. And then you have like the ice belt, which has this neat snowstorm outside. This almost like Fendrana drifts atmosphere as well there. Man, it just is very fucking pretty. And I think more than anything, stuff like the lighting system and the fact that it supports HDR now, which my video isn't recorded, but you can imagine. Stuff like that helps. And you know what? You know what? The best thing that just completes the experience, the music, the sound effects. Wow, dude. Now, the soundtrack itself, really catchy. It's not as memorable as the older games, I'll say that. However, it's still wow, just for the tracks that are here, especially again, Wall Forge, and then you have Fury Green. That's pure magic. It's top tier Prime music, along with the sound effects, even that new voice actor you have for Samus herself. Just, ooh, like that. Just, it is really, really good stuff here. And I urge you to check out this soundtrack if you haven't. Yeah, it's just really immersive, I'd say. And you know, what makes that even better is the fact that you have all of the classic Metroid puzzles in this game. You know, one that I specifically remember enjoying is when you get one of the new psychic abilities, in which that you use the morph ball, and you kind of swing yourself kind of like a rubber band, and like jumping from point to point to point. That was so fun, and I could even see like a full-on spin-off game being made out of that sort of ability. So, wow. The other psychic abilities are really fun as well, but I just wanted to highlight that one specifically because I really like that, and I want more of that. Now, with all of that said, Prime 4 probably still is the worst one of the four, and the reason for that is because it kind of misses the point of what a Metroid game really is, and that it kind of recreates an issue from Prime 1 of all things. So let's not hold back anymore. What the hell went wrong? And if you've played the game, I'm sure you know, but by far the weakest point of the game is the actual level design. You know, the whole game is a lot more linear than ever. In the older games, both 2D and 3D, we had level design in the way of essentially creating a big-ass labyrinth. We kind of lost that here, because every game, or every area, I should say, is more or less a straight shot to the end where you'll face a boss, which, as I said before, are really good though. But still, that's a kind of big issue, isn't it? Big labyrinths, connecting pathways, everything like that in the older games. In this game, you walk through a door, a hallway, maybe a save point on the left, pretty nice, and you go to the next room. And alongside that, you have sidekicks now in the form of the troopers. Now, I don't really mind the troopers on their own. I think it's kinda nice to save them all. But the thing is, you spend kind of a large portion of this game helping them. That means sharing gameplay sequences with them, having scripted sequences above everything else. And I don't really enjoy that, you know? I don't enjoy sharing gameplay sequences with them at all. Especially not to save them or anything when they take damage, because surprise, they have their own health bar as well. And, oh my lord, you have to revive them when they're low on HP. You know? Why? Why is this in my Metroid game? I don't know. It's strange. I don't like it. I don't like it. A bigger problem is that they stick around for the whole game, and they kinda ruin the first phase of the awesome final boss, which I'll get into later, but But then I feel like we're forgetting something. Could it be? The huge, empty-ass desert. Everyone already knows this, but the desert is pointless. It shouldn't be here. And it's another example of Nintendo shoving another open world into one of their games just for no reason. It's the same problem that I have with Pokemon myself, and that most of you probably have with Mario Kart World. Why is this still a thing? Now, the Viola bike is really cool, but it doesn't really fit Metroid. You know, neither does collecting endless amounts of green energy crystals. Because spoilers, that's what you can do in the desert. Now, yeah, sure, there are a few energy tanks and like missiles. Wow, cool, right? But the main thing to do in the desert, aside from going to the next area, is to collect these crystals. Now, what do you do with them? You can upgrade yourself a tiny bit. You have to open up the ending of the game with that. Okay. The problem is, there's like scattered all over the desert. The desert is practically empty otherwise. It takes forever to go anywhere there. And it is boring as shit to collect them. Now, the thing is, there's even a collectible locked behind these energy crystals. Thankfully, that's not, counted for 100% completion in the game, but still, what the hell? And the thing is, the desert could have been something fun. Could have been a little bit smaller. Maybe the crystals could have been spaced out in a way that was maybe fun? Maybe. You could have introduced background music. Oh wait, there is background music! Oh yeah, right, it's locked behind an amiibo. Okay, now, essentially, the whole issue is that this is introducing grinding elements into Metroid. Something that really shouldn't be there. Aside from what? Grinding health? You did that in Metroid 1 for the NES. They fixed that. That was removed, You didn't have to do that because you had save points. The idea is that you're collecting these green crystals throughout the game as you move through the areas, but realistically you don't. So even someone like me, who spends a lot of the time in between the areas going around and around and around, I even still had to grind in the end. And it was boring! 20 minutes almost of just non-stop roaming around the desert. I didn't record all of that because why the hell would I? Who wants to see that? I don't want to play it, but I was bored. I had to do it. I couldn't beat the game otherwise. Now, the desert is also home to one of Prime 4's most dumb decisions ever, and that's how you handle backtracking between areas of the game. You see, in Prime 1, backtracking was a bit of a chore, given that you had to go between Magmor caverns pretty much every time when you went through areas. And that sucked, but Prime 2 fixed that. One of the better examples being when you go between the Sanctuary Fortress back to the Torvus Bog once. And lo and behold, when you get your upgrade in the Torvus Bog, you get an elevator that takes you right the way back to the Sanctuary Fortress. Now, in Prime 4, we're kinda back to the setup from Prime 1, in which that the desert kinda replaces Magmor caverns, but you still have to go through it over and over and over and over and over. And that is absolutely baffling to me, making the game feel all the more segmented than it really should be. Now, spoiler warning, as I'm about to talk about the ending and story of the game as a whole. So skip to the time on screen that you should see somewhere around here if you haven't played this yet. The ending itself is a bit all over the place. The build-up is really cool. You destroy the force field, you go up the tower with all of your buddies. Seeing a bit of Silux's backstory is nice, as he really hasn't done anything about, in the game at all. He showed up in the beginning. You had 2 boss fights, I want to remember, against a fake Silux. For some reason. Meh. The boss fight was really challenging and tense, but the trooper, the forced trooper interaction stuff during phase 1, man, that was a sour spot, the whole setup is basically fighting Silux as he has spawned these, massive dragon heads. That was cool. What wasn't cool was having to heal my, teammates and all. That sucks. That sucks. The second phase, obviously, is probably the highlight. It's challenging as all hell. I even died once. That should tell you something. And finally, obviously, the ending cutscene. It feels like a setup for Prime 5 more than anything. But I really didn't enjoy the part about the troopers having to, sacrifice themselves. And the reason for that is it feels kind of forced more than anything, in which the game is trying to make me care for these guys that I spent the majority of the game wishing weren't there at all. It doesn't really work, And so seeing the credits, it didn't really satisfy me at all. I felt odd more than anything, what was that? What the fuck? It was weird. It was strange. Aside from that, though, the general story, you have the same kind of setup as most of the Prime games. You have an optional story in which you can read the lore through the scan logs and whatnot. That's nice. It was nice. It was nice seeing a little bit of, I guess, interaction in the sense also with Samus and the troopers throughout her journey. as long as you didn't have to play with them. You know, one of the best ones, I think, is probably, well, the first guy, Mackenzie, or, what was his name? The other guy. There was one guy, I forgot his name now. There was one guy who was like sitting in a control room pretty much the whole game, or the whole area. I think it was in the ice belt, and that was probably better, just having someone to communicate with. But one of the worst ones, for example, was the robot guy in the mines nearing the end of the game. That was weird. That wasn't good. That was pretty much just fighting enemies, going to the next room. That wasn't good. That's not Metroid. That shouldn't be there. What the hell? So, I mean, the story works. It's weird. But it wasn't really Metroid per se. Didn't. Lamorne, though, that was cool. Seeing those cutscenes through the statues and whatnot. You win some, you lose some. Now, to let the others back in, let's finish this up. As I said in the beginning, Prime 4 is divisive. It does so much right, but ultimately fails at the most important things when it comes to being a Metroid game. It's not a bad game outright. Hell, most of the complaints are probably something that most of us older fans with a deep understanding of the older entries will even understand. So I still urge you to try the game if you haven't. It is worth the money, it was worth the wait, and especially if you've made it this far in the video, I'm sure that you have found something that you might think, hey, that looks cool. Even though the game still has flaws, the stuff like the desert and especially the green crystal hunting is bad, no matter what anyone says. What sucks is that the game being as divisive as it is really is the opposite of what the Metroid franchise needs as a whole. In the eyes of Metroid fans, the game might look interesting, but the online reputation itself, and a quick look at the Metacritic score, is more than often enough for the average player to just reconsider and be like, maybe not. This needed to be a smash hit with everyone, but ended up being with no one. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this new format, as it's something new for the channel. And I really enjoyed making this kind of format as myself, so hearing any kind of feedback for this kind of stuff really means the world for me. With that said, have a happy new year, and I'll see you around in 2026. Thanks for watching again.